You see, before the accusation ran that it was Novichok poison, I thought I was quite neutral to this and just expecting what comes out of the German circles. But when I listened to this Novichok accusation, I remembered that Novichok is being used whenever Western propaganda wants to play a game against and with Russia. And this is a little bit unhappy in the past. That started with the Skripal affair, which was really a ridiculous secret service blunder from the British side. Terrible story. So something happened to Nawalny. I'm very sad that our chancellor put her credibility at risk by voicing this accusation. We must understand that the US has practically taken control of all chemical laboratories situated in the old Soviet Union and outside Russia. This is the situation. They are preparing, the US is preparing for biological and chemical warfare. And what they are doing here is putting propaganda against Russia. There's no proof at all. Even Donald Trump has asked for further proof.
Okay.
He's not convinced that this accusation is correct. And then is the question, who profits, cui bono, who profits from this attack? This is a lackluster provincial opposition guy, and he is no danger whatsoever to the rule of President Putin. So why the hell should the Russians do any harm to him? He's
okay.
good.
All right. Stay with me, Christoph. Let me get John in on this discussion. Well, John, you heard what Christoph is saying, and that was actually my next question. Basically, why would Russia do something like this? How would it benefit Russia for actually doing this, according to the accusation? John said it's not really relevant. The question I asked, basically, why would they even use this MO if really they wanted to get rid of him? And I'm throwing that question to you. And this scenario seems almost like a copy-paste of what we saw just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's so strange. I can tell you one story. It may sound cynical, but it is like this. If the Russian establishment wants another Russian citizen dead, be sure they will succeed. So why should they do this kind of thing with a prolonged story then going on, first in Omsk and treatment in the hospital, and then international haggle and struggle about getting Nawalny out of Russia and then into Germany, which was, proposed by some circles who are, convinced that the Russian leadership is no good. So then finally the guy comes to Germany, and I'm so happy that he is still alive. But why should the Russian leadership risk this if they are behind it? That's a story that doesn't stick. And then we have this other question, cui bono, who is profiting from that story? So it is very clear now that important circles, not only in German policy, but also in European politics, are demanding a stop to the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline project, which is terribly important for Germany and Europe. They are demanding a stop, and that is what, in fact, the global deep state wants. They want to cause a rift between Germany and Russia especially, and between Europe and Russia also, of course, if they can. And now they have this wonderful Nawalny case to prove that this is the right way. Stop Nord Stream 2, and that is a very sad story. And that means the cui bono question is answered. The West, the Western deep state circles against Russia, they profit from this story.
Okay. I'm sorry, because we're having some technical difficulties, John. You're coming in and out. My apologies to our viewers. Hopefully we can try to get that cleared up. Well, Christoph, your take on all of this. On the one hand, there are analysis saying that the U.S. is actually trying to pressure Germany. On the other hand, we see U.S. President, actually Donald Trump now, questioning all of this and says that he hasn't even seen any proof of it all.
Yeah, that's a good story in fact, and I think there's a dirty trick being played on Germany that we have to, damage our relationship on behalf of some, global powers who don't want friendship between Germany and Russia to blossom. For more than 100 years, it was said by George Friedman of Stratfor, intelligence service, that this was the #1 goal of Washington's policies over all these many years, that Germany and Russia cannot come together. And how wonderful it is to poison such a guy, how wonderful to use this typically Soviet poison, And then I'm smiling, but I see the poor guy. He's just, the maneuvering mass of a person being used in a dirty game. And now we have this problem, and from inside Germany, all these, people who are against Russia on behalf of Washingtonians, deep state interests, they are, feeling very happy and demanding the closing and stopping of this project for at least 2 years and things like that. What is this? This is really a huge trick being played. I'm very sorry to have to say that. And Donald Trump, again, is not in it. And that I have him in very high esteem because of that. It would be too easy within this, election campaign to consent to his deep state wishes.
So you're saying that, I'm just trying to follow your line of reasoning, Christoph. So you're saying that actually the deep state is involved, but you're saying that Donald Trump is not involved in the planning, and that's why we see a difference in what he's saying and accusations. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. That is it. Donald Trump is again outside. Sometimes he's outside. His own guys want him something to do. He doesn't do it. That was the case in Syria when he did this very small bombing. That was the case in this terrible case of the dear Iranian general Soleimani, whom he chose to be killed because the alternative was to kill 150 Iranians, and he decided against that. And these are the things he's constantly trying to measure and to weigh. How should he be held under the pressure of some, very warmongering generals or security personnel?
Well, John, let's look at this at all in the November U.S. election, as there seems to be a division between Donald Trump and other American politicians. As I said earlier, Donald Trump has said that he hasn't seen anything. He still needs proof. On the other hand, there are other parts of the system that has already condemned the poisoning and is accusing Russia. Do you see it playing a role?
Of course, please let me correct one thing. There are some members of the German parliament who belong to the ruling political parties, and they are demanding too that Nord Stream 2 be closed and stopped for at least for a while. And there's Friedrich Merz. He is the candidate for the next chancellorship of the Christian Democratic ruling party of Angela Merkel. And he's also demanding the stop of this pipeline project. So that is a very serious story. And how can a deep state, organization make sure that Mr. Nawalny is flown to Germany? That's easy for them. They manage things all the time, and Germany is obedient all the time. So that's a very difficult situation, and easy to foresee that if Germany has to play the bad game, then they will try to organize that, and that has happened here. I'm very sorry. And in the American, election campaign, it is very clear what has the deep state done, what has the opposition done to discredit the friendly wish of President Donald Trump, even in his time as a candidate for the first election, that he wanted to improve the relations with Russia, and he was not allowed. 2 times he invited President Putin to the White House. He was not allowed to fulfill. And he had to wait 1.5 years for the first meeting with President Putin. This is the situation in the US. This is the power of deep state in the US.